Yeah.
So we've spent a lot of time on this, and we're probably gonna have to end soon. But before we close, I do want to get into some of the stuff we wanted to talk about digital media and physical media, because as excited as we are about Disney Plus, like there's some issues I have, and I'm curious to get your take on them. Because one, Disney apparently is, because there's the Disney Vault, which is like the way Disney has been releasing their old content over the years has been like, this movie we're not putting in circulation, like an old Disney animated movie, and then it gets out of the vault, like we're re-releasing it. That's why like Jungle Book Blu-rays came out like 2 years ago and were like, a full price thing with all this new packaging, because they're trying to, it's Disney, this stuff is like classics, so they can like hand you 50-year-old content in a new package and give you full price for it.
Yeah, how much are you willing to pay for your childhood, essentially?
Exactly. Or to give your childhood to your kids, you know what I mean? Like it's all this stuff, like Mary Poppins, like when the new one came out, or a year or two before, it was like the 50th anniversary or something of the movie, and they did this big new release, and I don't think it was on Blu-ray before that, even though, it's like most other companies, you can probably find a Blu-ray of like, struggling to come up with an example right now, but like a lot of other old classic movies like that, because, but Disney can like withhold it because they know when they launch it, it's going to be huge.
And the fact that once they hold something, that immediately puts on, like, if I didn't care about Bambi, if I didn't give a shit about Bambi, if I see, oh shit, Bambi is going away, why is Bambi like it's going in the vault? Like it adds this level of like, even though like just because I can't have it, I need it, like that kind of thing. And so either I rush to the store to grab it before it actually, and that's when it was in stores.
And so the big thing with that, the scary thing, is that Disney is like very quietly under the radar, or trying to be under the radar, is putting a lot of the classic Fox movies that they now own into the vault. And considering Disney Plus is not really going to have any R-rated content, that's a lot of stuff that probably won't be re-released for some time unless they put it on Hulu or something. And that means that like the main story I saw with this is there are a bunch of theaters that will do like event screenings for older movies. And it's this whole business where you go to the studio, they have people who will like essentially license the movie out to you or rent the movie out to you, and you can play it at your theater. You like pay them some amount, and it's how like Fathom Events can do like a Jaws like screening like 50 years later or whatever. And there's a lot of theaters, especially in like, areas like New York and LA, who do this kind of stuff. And not just there, like there's theaters all over that will play classic movies, cheaper options for people than seeing the big new releases. And so now movies like Alien and Aliens, like the originals, I think the Predator movies, like these kind of things are being put into the Disney Vault and won't be able to be screened anymore at theaters. And likely, unless Disney decides to re-release them themselves, won't see any re-releases on physical media or streaming.
Jeez.
And now it would be weird if they were to like shove Alien completely under the rug forever. Like that is like that is something that they could release a ultimate edition of Alien, next week, and diehard fans would buy it. Yeah, absolutely. Like that stuff still sells, even if the more recent movies haven't been as popular. But it's really scary to think that they can just hide stuff away when Disney Plus should be like, these streaming services should, if anything, do the opposite. You know what I mean? Like, and a huge part of this is just Disney becoming a monopoly. Like that's just full stop bad, like without a doubt. But the fact that they could at least be a benevolent monopoly, I mean, that it's obviously not a real thing, but like, they could at least be like, hey, we own everything and we're making it available to you, like the good and the bad, like all of it, like for historical purposes. But instead it's like, we're going to own everything and we're going to put a tight lid and control on it. And that scares the shit out of me. And that's something that comes up in games a lot too, where like a game will be taken off of a digital store, especially games that have only digital releases. And I know the games industry is a little different, like indie games, like not everyone can afford to put out a physical release of their game. And I'm not saying that necessarily is a bad thing, that they have these other options, but when it comes to preservation of art, and keeping records of these things and a history of these things, like it scares me that and this is something I've always been afraid of with movies and video games, is that you can just take it away from me. You know, like they're apparently I was watching a podcast earlier, and apparently iTunes, when they lose the license, like the ability to have a certain movie on their store, even though you paid for it, and this isn't a subscription thing, this is you paying $10 for a movie, they can take that out of your library. Like they can just take the movie away from you, even though you have it in your library.
Is it a streaming like is it a
no? This is like
offline,
downloaded on like movies on your iTunes, not like Apple TV, not like, you know, Apple Music where you stream the music. Like this is like shit you could do 15 years ago or 10 years ago, where you could download a movie to your iTunes. Like that kind of stuff you can just lose now. And I don't believe for a second that that's not also the case on my PlayStation, on my Switch, on, you know, all these different things. Like I'm sure that like maybe the way it's set up now, it wouldn't be easy for them to do that. But the fact is, I don't feel like I own a movie if I don't have the ability to hold it. And that's like a very specific thing that not a lot of people share. But I think when you see stuff like what Disney's doing with the Fox movies, or what, you know, is happening to some people on iTunes, like you can see how this is gonna, in the long term, affect our ability to preserve a lot of this art. And you know, maybe no one wants to see Song of the South again. Like Disney didn't have to put that on Disney Plus. I'm not saying that, but like there should be a way where you could, if you're a professor or even just a historian or enthusiast, like if you want to, like there should be an option to go to Warner Brothers or go to Disney, like on their website, and like print on demand like Blu-ray or DVD copies of things, just so like that stuff exists. Or there should be copies saved in libraries and stuff like that, like or museums. You know, like the fact that there's stuff like, obviously we've already lost a lot of film history because so much of it in the early days was, you know, on physical film that was burned and lost or degraded over time. And, you know, restoration efforts can only go so far. But, you know, now that things are being released with the intent of being digital, even if they do have a physical release, like that could be limited to a great degree because they're really pushing the digital marketplace. Like it just, like, are we really owning anything anymore, or are we just licensing the right to use it? You know what I mean?
My thing is, I'm not going to I'm not going to argue that point at all, because I don't think it's a matter of like when it comes to games, like the scariest thing that I've heard. So like I haven't heard anything as scary as the iTunes stuff, but it's been a matter of like if you bought a game or something, like I don't know, an always online game. Let's use that for an example. Like you can put a lot of both time and money into some game, and then, you know, either not enough people are playing it, so we're going to shut the servers down, or we got bought out and a new company says that we shouldn't, so we're going to for whatever reason, the servers get shut down. And like, I can't remember exactly what happened with DuckTales Remastered, but I'm pretty sure they were like, like stripped it from storefronts. Like, from what I remember, with the intent to put them back up eventually, like once Disney figured out its whole games consolidation effort, like once that gets figured out, they'll put it back up. But still, that is like, that's shitty. But I guess my issue is just like, it sucks, but like, is it worth the like giving up the benefits? Because I love the idea of, I don't need to worry about like if I'm bringing my PlayStation somewhere, and I, as someone that is extremely indecisive, and honestly, this might have even influenced how I play games, but like as someone that plays like a lot of like online multiplayer stuff, like just the convenience of, okay, I got my daily bounties in Destiny, I want to jump over to something else right now. I can easily just scroll through my library and not have to deal with like, oh, well, where is that right now? Like, even if it is just a matter of, I got to just reach up and grab it right here, open the disc, whatever. Like, every time I do that, that adds up. And if I jump into a game and I'm like, I'm not really feeling this right now, I can easily just be like, I'm going to jump back over to this. And like, sure, there's still the loading time and stuff like that, but it's still the convenience of like, I mean, that I can, I want to play Pokemon as soon as possible. I get home on Thursday night. It is 6 o'clock. I start the download. It is done by 7 o'clock, and now I'm waiting 2 hours until I play because and then I can just pick it up, play. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to wait for delivery to get fucked up in the transit on the way here. Like I can just start playing it. In terms of like the issue of like, oh well, what if they pull whatever? Like you just kind of have to run that risk. Like even if I did own a disc for I don't know. Like I have a disc for Destiny 2. Like I have the disc for it. But if and for Overwatch, which is like really ironic because those are two games that I will just like just swap back and forth. Like I'm getting my ass kicked in Destiny, I'm going to play Overwatch for a bit. I'm getting my ass kicked in Overwatch, I'm going to flip over to Destiny. Like, like having to swap those two discs, honestly, not that big a deal. But like, if at any point Blizzard's just like, yo, we're not trying to play Overwatch anymore, none of us, and then they just shut the servers down. Like I have the disc, I own the game, but I can't play it.
Right. I mean, that's something I've always like, I never really let bother me when it came to multiplayer games because I was like, okay, like it's a part of the game. But I mean, that's I like local multiplayer for that reason, where it's just like we're not restricted. But like at the same time, I enjoy online multiplayer games enough that like I understand they can't live forever. Like that just doesn't make sense. So like even actually devoid of all this other stuff we're talking about. I mean, they That's
actually an interesting point because I saw something that said xCloud is trying to bring back like couch co-op essentially, with the idea that like since you're not playing on an Xbox, like the game processing is not happening on your hardware, so it's not necessarily limited by what you have in your house. So if you and I both had like xCloud accounts essentially, we could meet up somewhere, start playing, and just right next, like I can hop into your game, like your Mortal Kombat, whatever. You're trying to think of some other not like fighting game example, like
Halo. I don't know.
Yeah, like a Halo, like just something split screen, and have it run just as well as like have it, instead of it's going to be 4K, but it's going to be 30 frames per second per screen. Like, 4K, 60 frames per second each screen because we're doing all that processing in the cloud. Again, not restricted by physical hardware. Like I think that we're going to, I mean, and also to me, it's kind of one of those, like, it's going to happen. So like, I'm just going to, like, I'm typically not like I'm, you know me, like I'm not a super optimistic person when it comes to just like things in general, but with like the whole digital physical thing, like to me, if it's going to be the eventuality, I'm just going to like go with the flow. Like I think preservation efforts need to be made, but I'm also like for games, I know that there's the museum in Oakland. Like there's a video game museum where they have like fucking everything.
That's what I'm saying. More of that. More of that. Like just
absolutely.
Like I think the ease and access of streaming and digital has completely changed the game for the good in a lot of ways. Like people talk about it all the time, like how Netflix has opened the door for a lot of different types of creators to get their stuff made that never would have been able to been able to get either aired on a network or put in theaters. And I think same goes for games. Like the fact that Nintendo has like a massive indie marketplace is awesome, and that stuff is primarily digital only. I think all of that is great. I just wish we could find a way to support both sides of the market, because I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not, the majority anymore, but I know I'm not alone. I also think the numbers are that most people still do buy their video games physical. I don't think it's had the same shift that has happened in movies yet, and TV yet. But
with games, you also have to have, like, with streaming, it's just really the download. Like with games, it's like if you don't have great internet, like I feel like most of the country still doesn't have like gamer great internet. Like
well, and even if you're not streaming, like even digital downloads, like I think physical games, like I should have had the numbers in front of me, but anyway, that's not the main point.
I mean, I feel like I've seen those. I agree with what you're saying.
We talked before about Movie Pass and AMC stubs. Like here's what I'm proposing, and then we can close the show and whatnot, because we've been going pretty long. But this is my final optimistic proposal on how to save physical media. Let's say you could get like a movie pass for games. Like can't call it Games Pass because they've already got that. But let's call it like, I don't know, like let's say it's run through GameStop, like GameStop Pass or whatever, and you pay $10 a month or $15 a month or whatever, and then because games physical media has like the added cost of packaging and shipping and stuff, it's not like you get the games for free. It's not like you pay $15 a month, you go to GameStop and you get a $60 game for free. But what if it was like you pay $15 a month, and then when you go to pick up Pokemon Sword and Shield physical on day one, you can buy them for $15. Like that way, like, you know, you have the subscription recurring payment model, and then oh god, I just realized my lighting drastically changed. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to see this video for putting it up or not, but anyway, but yeah, basically like the way AMC and Movie Pass, or Movie Pass is at least supposed to work, where you get the benefits of, you know, like getting the customer to come back to your store over and over and over again. Exactly. Like if I paid $10, $15 a month and I got like games heavily discounted, I would buy more games and I would have more consistent purchases because I would have money down on them already. It's basically like the same idea of like AMC. You see 2 movies a month, it pays for itself. Like GameStop Pass, if we're calling it that. Like you pay $15 and then you pay another $15 for a new game, but then you got a new game for $30 instead of $60. It pays for itself. Then the next month you don't buy anything new. GameStop gets that money. Over time, they are going to make more money more consistently. I mean, this is, I'm not, you know, I'm pitching this as like a general, like I wonder if there's any way for them to like start from there and then, you know, take that in probably a better, more business conscious direction. But
have you seen the GameStop like transition ideas so far?
What, like how they're
like the test stores?
No,
like they have test stores in some area, I think in like Houston. But basically, they're trying to get to more of a like some stores are going to be more esports oriented. Like, hey, we're trying to, you know, incite competition and like that spirit of like, it's cool, just esports. But then the other one, which I think would go really well with your idea, was like, hey, we've got like gaming experts. Like we've got like they, I don't know, Greg Miller on an off day is going to be here and he is going to explain to you what all these games are. If you like are trying to find a game for your kid, you're going to get to sit down. We're going to have a fucking couch and TV set up in the back with all the consoles. You can play the game. We will explain to you all the different mechanics and like all this stuff. So like, I think especially if you're encouraging kids to come in and when I say kids, I mean everyone. Everyone is a kid in my eyes. Like, you know, children are good people. No, they're not. No, they're not. I hate kids so much. I'm just trying to say, like,
the weirdest tangent of the episode. I'm just
yeah, because I was like, I say kids way too much just to like to refer to general people, and I'm like, I'm not trying to demean people. I'm trying to say, like, you know, we're all playing games. Like, this is a fun. I'm trying to getting all amped up about fun.
I get what you're saying. I think that
bring the people, if you give them a reason to come in constantly. And like you keep them there, because one of my like if I go into a GameStop, I'm gonna linger, and the longer I linger, the more. And I think that's just fucking sales. Like the longer someone lingers, like you can get them, like you can convince them, try to push them in the right direction. Like if you can. And this year has been kind of an off year for games, but like
it's been slow,
I feel like we've still been on an upward trend of like
absolutely.
I mean, Cyberpunk next year is about to be.
I think we really need to like look at how gaming can continue to grow and become like, I think it's dope that gaming is like now just a mainstream thing and everyone's playing games now and mobile has a big part of that and whatnot. But I think there's something to be said about like the smaller, more contained experiences of playing split screen with your friend on your couch, or having to go to the store to buy a new game and interact with people and, you know, maybe make a friend that way. Like, I don't want that to be lost in the same way I don't want the movie theater going experience to be lost. And, you know, it's a complicated issue. There's a lot of things making it happen on both the movie and the game front. You know, no one person is to blame. I think definitely if these companies were a little more regulated and a little more conscious to this stuff, it would help out. But at the same time, you know, consumers are making the choice to go in this direction too. And, you know, I've definitely submitted to that as well. But I want to believe that we're not going to lose physical media entirely. And it's already changed so much in my very short lifetime. So yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how things move on. Because I genuinely, like, for every new technology that comes about, I feel like there are going to be people that are like not necessarily, okay, naysayers, but like in a good way. Like the people that like me being excited about Stadia, like me being all excited to you about Stadia, and then you being like, you shouldn't be that excited. Like neither of us with that much information to go off of, but just still that balance of perception. Like, yeah. Like I feel like we're gonna have like there will be, I don't know, more. I think libraries are gonna end up having more games and more movies. I couldn't think of the word. I was like, I knew it wasn't just DVDs. I just kept saying DVDs in my head.
Well, I think our generation is going back to libraries, so hopefully that'll help change it.
Which is weird.
It is weird.